Welcome to Royal Math Podcast. Tonight we're looking at activity practice number 20, questions 3, 6, and 7. So, question 3. Consider the spinner below. Each of the following two statements is incorrect. For each statement, explain why the statement is incorrect. So first off, let's look at spinner 1. Now, if I go ahead and draw a line extending down, and I think I'm going to go ahead and make a little bit smaller of a line, but so I extend that line, we can see that guess what? We have one section, second section, a third section, and a fourth section, all of equal size. So that means each one of those sections I have made is 25% of that spinner. Now, section 1 only has one of those 25% areas, so we know that section 1, or the probability of landing on number 1, is 25%. Alright, so what does that mean about the probability of landing on 2? Well, it holds 3 25% portions, so we know it would be 75%. So the probability would be 25% for 1 and 75% for 2, which could also be written as 1/4 for the probability of landing on 1 and 3/4 for the probability of landing on 2. So now, with that in mind, let's take a look at what each statement says. Statement 1. If we spin the spinner many times, we would expect the result to be 1 about half the time and 2 about half the time. So what they're saying right there is if the spinner was set up with a line going across, 50% being on top and 50% being on bottom. But that's not the way it is. It's not set up like that. It's set up 25-75. So the reason why statement 1 is incorrect is because it says half the time would be result in a 1 and half the time it result in a 2. When it's 25% 1, 75% 2. Let's look at statement 2. If we spin this spinner 20 times, we will see 5 1s and 15 2s. Okay, if we spin this spinner 20 times, we will see 5 1s and 15 2s. So statement 2 is basically saying, if we spin this spinner 20 times, we will see 5 1s and 15 2s. Now, if we do the math, 5 1s, so if we have 5 1s out of 20, that right there equals 25%. And if we have 15 2s, well, that's 15 out of 20, that does equal 75%. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, how can that be incorrect if those percentages right here match up perfectly with the percentages that we figured the statement out, or that spinner out to have? Well, remember this. Those probabilities that we figured out by the physicality of the spinner, in other words, how much physical location is allocated to spinner number 2, or the second spot, and how much is allocated to the first spot labeled 1. Okay, that's long term. We do not expect, if we roll, or if we spin 20 times, to actually get the exact amount, 25 and 75%, because 25% and 75% is a long-term prediction. In the short term, it's normally either more or less. The long-term probability is where it equals out to the 25% or the 75%. All right, moving on to the next question.